I would like to share with you what I do and why it is really very important for society to explore new boundaries. In my work, I feel fortunate because that's what I do as a living. I explore new knowledge, and quite often people ask me, what do you need to do that? And my answer is always the same. You need to be like a child. You need to be curious. You need to try to improve always because you want to know more. And you need to be open to surprise. You have to let your brain expose to the novelty. And you should be ready when you find something new to recognize it, to explain it if you can, and to try to distribute this knowledge at large. It's not easy because every time you will face difficulties. New equipment is difficult to build. Being open to surprise is not something we tend to be as an adult. We're trying to focus on what we know. And usually when you try to explain new knowledge, you face a lot of reactions from people that are very skeptical. All this we had to go through 25 years ago. When I was a PhD student, I developed with my colleagues of the Observatoire de Haute-Provence and my professor Michel Mayor a brand new equipment that was completely new at that time. We invented a new machine. This machine are known as precise spectrograph right now. There is a couple of this machine in Chile right now in some of the big observatory behind telescopes. But at that time, it was the only machine in the world because we practically designed new equipment to do that. With this machine, we found evidence of a very awkward planet because it was a planet like Jupiter on a very short period. And such a planet doesn't exist in the solar system. And when I was exposed to this new data, I was in shock because I thought that something was wrong in my equipment. I never thought that it could be a planet. But by working in a rational way with the knowledge you establish and by knowing your equipment, that was the only explanation I came up after some time. And I had some time to convince my professor. He was also very skeptical, and we had really hard time to convince the community. I think it took about 5 years after we made the announcement to convince that we had found something new. Now here we are. Today we have thousands of planets, and it's pretty clear that when you form a star, at the same time you build a star, you build planet. It comes essentially for free. That's the consequences. 25 years ago, we didn't know. Right now, there is plenty of people finding planet and equipment. Now, when I explain all this story and what I explain I'm doing, quite often people asking me, but why is it useful to do that? What is the purpose of all this? And I think this is a very good question. And as a scientist, and all the scientists should be ready to explain, what is the purpose of building new knowledge? Well, a couple of previous Nobel laureates had to face exactly the same kind of questions, and they come up always with the same answer. Well, you don't create the electric bulb by trying to improve the candle. So if you need to imagine a new technology, you should first find a new technology. And to find it, you need to explore the unknown. And to find the unknown, you need to be curiosity-driven. That is called pure research or blue sky research. If you look into our society, you will realize that our society is entirely built on knowledge found by that kind of research. There's many, many layers of discovery that has been added together. And today, we think it's normal that we are sick, we go to the medicine, and people are living quite old usually. We travel, we take plane, we fly like birds, we go to space, we talk with cell phone, we even locate yourself with a cell phone. All this works because of the technology, because people have been looking for something by just trying to push the boundary. Well, I use the cell phone, and I like the cell phone very much because when Einstein started to design his equations, relativistic equations, well, he had no idea one day this would be used in a cell phone. He was only pushed by some kind of aesthetic between the time and space to find something more rational to explain the two. Of course, we're using this equation to understand the universe. We're using this equation to understand the black hole and to predict the nature of the black hole. But all of you with a cell phone are using this equation as well when you are using the GPS, which is inside your cell phone to locate where you are. That's one of the many examples. I can talk for hours about how much you are completely dominated by external knowledge. Of course, you need the technology to build up on that, but without the core knowledge that is found by this curiosity, you don't lead nowhere. Now, there is something much more profound behind this. If you look back at what we're doing, finding planets, finding other worlds, that's clear that it's difficult to find a direct application for our society. But here I have to go back in time a little bit. At the time when Newton is seen as the father of the astronomy after Galileo, because he designed the first theory that is a way to explain the gravity and all the orbiting body in the solar system. Well, Newton did something by establishing his theory of the motion and the gravity. He touched about a concept that was very new for his time, which is called the natural order. So there are some kind of natural order which is hidden to us. And the purpose of the science is to find this order. So the world looks very chaotic when you use only your natural sense, because we are not built more than to survive and to eat and to reproduce ourselves. But apparently there is way more order in the world that you think. And Newton discovered one of them that is dictating the structure of the system. Well, this theory, of course, was extremely useful for astronomers because they were able to predict a lot of stuff, like including the motion of the planet. And it kickstarted essentially what's called the modern physics, following the brilliant insight of Galileo, who was the first one that kickstarted really the idea that you can build a knowledge based on facts. Now, but the society start to grasp the idea of natural order. And from natural order, some people like Voltaire or Paine, for example, started to challenge the order in place that was a monarchic order given by God. And this transition from a God-dominated world to a natural order happened in the spirit of the work of Newton. And Newton, in a way, was one of the seeds that later led to the French and the American revolutions, and the idea of you can get a democratic, challenging the origin of the monarchic order. Well, you find some of this idea in the work of Newton. So I just take this example here to tell you that when you do establish a new knowledge, well, you never know exactly what the society will be doing with that. And that's pretty clear when you talk about planet or another star, you're touching something highly emotional, which is life. So we all have alien in mind, all these possibilities, but it's not anymore in mind right now. We realize that because there are so many planets, some of them may look, let's say, nice place maybe for life to develop. We're soon going to Mars. In less than a month, we will land a lander, and this lander will drill and bring back some sample that another mission will bring back to Earth later on that we're going to study. And maybe we're going to find, maybe not some living organisms, but maybe some traces of past organisms. Because Mars, in the first billion years old of the solar system, was not very different from the Earth. And we know that life happened in this very famous first billion years old. So we're not very far for a major shift in our civilizations. It's not only that we have continued what's called the Copernican revolutions by setting the solar system in the right place amongst many other, but we may be soon in a situation where we're going to reset what means exactly life, being a planet with life. and looking for life in other planets of the solar systems, but also trying to look for some traces, some hint that there may be some life on others, on all of these other planets that we're detecting. That's a very difficult project. That's very challenging because the planet is very small and next to a very bright object. But we're building a new generation of instrument right now. You may be aware that in Paranal at Los Amazones, there is a brand new telescope being built, which is a 40-meter size diameter telescope. Well, we will fly soon a new generation of space telescopes called the James Webb Space Telescopes. And we're already thinking much further that we're now designing the next generations of ground-based telescope that will be much bigger, or maybe made of many telescopes together, like ALMA, or we're going to fly larger, maybe flotilla of telescopes operating together in space. Or maybe we're talking about having a base on the moon, on the dark side of the moon, where you can conduct astronomy without the light pollutions, protected by the shadow of the Earth in a way. So these are the plans. So it's quite amazing to realize all that. But at the same time, there is also something which is scary with the science. By having now the knowledge to understand the nature of the matter, to soon understand the origin of life, we have so much understanding also of life work. We're having what's called almost divine privilege here. But the privilege comes with a price. We know that there is a threat. We know that we have enough thermonuclear weapon to destroy ourselves within a couple of minutes. We know also that the way we're living, with the amount of material we're extracting from the soil that was carefully hidden back and adding into the atmosphere gas like the CO2 is going to change the whole balance between the atmosphere and the planet that has been established for so long time ago. And this is really a threat for us. So science brings you the good and the bad, because this is the price to get by new knowledge and new power to explore the unknowns. It's also the power to destroy yourself. So I think we will have to be very careful and very, very aware of all this. And I'm dreaming that we will soon get rid of all these thermonuclear weapons, which are just absolutely madness to imagine we're storing this. And I'm dreaming also we will better understand how to use the many resources we have. The sun is our main source of energy. The sun will last for some time, enough maybe for us to live as a civilizations a couple of more 1,000 years. And who knows exactly in 1,000 years where we will be when you look back at what happened in terms of scientific development in only barely 400 years. So I think I feel very privileged to be a scientist, and I feel that always have to ask myself, am I childish enough to have the mindset to really be ready to explore the unknown? So I hope I gave you enough energy and enough good reason to maintain your own curiosity. We're all curious, and unfortunately, I think the nature of the society tends to hide this from us, and I think we should not be shy on that. We should leave this curiosity out of us, because I think this is the pure energy which is so special to our species. Thank you very much for your attention.